Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a very special game that I prepared for you today. It's Ethereum versus Stockfish 15 in the Pelikan Lasker Sicilian. Sometimes it's called also the Sveshnikov Sicilian, but I think these days we should call this opening the Magnus Carlsen Sicilian because Magnus Carlsen is playing this opening very often. I think it's his favorite Sicilian and he played the sharpest lasker-pelikan Sicilian also in the World Championship match against Fabiano Caruana. If you have trouble maybe to find a solid opening against e4, I think the Pelikan Lasker Sveshnikov Magnus Carlsen Sicilian is perfectly fine. And you see how Stockfish will play now this opening. Stockfish plays this of course in a different way, in a more brutal way, so that maybe if you don't like this opening, now you start to like it because this is really special. And maybe you can use also this game that we'll study today as your cornerstone sort of. Then maybe you can fall in love in this opening, and maybe then afterwards you can also search for different opportunities for white, for black. Maybe you can also search for different sidelines. So in my opinion, it's really an opening worth the study, and maybe in the near future we'll start also sort of a series, the Pelikan Lasker Sicilian from black's perspective. So okay, let's see now the game. Ethereum versus Stockfish 15 in the Magnus Carlsen Sicilian. So here e4 was played by Ethereum. We have c5 by the fish, knight to f3, knight to c6, d4. After c takes d4 we have the open Sicilian, knight to d4, and after move knight to f6 attacking the pawn. On e4 we have knight to c3, and now comes this Pelikan Lasker move. We have now the move e5. And okay, there is of course a good side about this move, there is of course a bad side about this move. First of all, we notice with the move e5 we get an extra tempo against our opponent's knight. Now after move knight from d to b5, we see that we have now a weakness here on d6. So that's why you have to make a reaction here. You have to play now the move d6, and actually the structure now in the center of the board is similar to the Najdorf Sicilian when we play a6 and then follow with d6. But many times in the Najdorf, but also in this Pelikan Lasker Sicilian, this d6 is of course a huge positional problem. And we have also from black's perspective another positional problem. It's of course the weak square on d5. But we have good moments of this opening because, as we said, we have already gained the tempo with the move e5 against the knight on b5. Now we get an after move bishop to g5 we get an extra tempo against the knight. Now after move knight to a3 and after move b5 we'll get another tempo because again white has to move the knight for a third time because we're threatening also the move b4. So the time that you get for the structural weakness, as we said, we have structural weakness on d5 and d6, is I think the time that we get is I think a good compensation for the structural weakness. So as I said, it's risky, but in my opinion really playable because now white has really to make a reaction because b4 really is a serious threat. So there are now two good ways here for white to make progress. White can play the move knight to d5 or can play bishop to f6 immediately. So if knight to d5 happens, then bishop to e7 is of course the continuation. Then after knight to e7, queen to e7, then bishop to e6 is opportunity b4, h6, g5 kicking with the bishop. So it's I think a playable position also for black. So okay, here in the continuation bishop to f6 was played by Ethereal. Now we have again two reactions. You can take with the g pawn, you can also take with the queen. Actually in this scenario you should take with the pawn, that's more correct. For instance, if you take with the queen you have some tactical problems because look at this, now the knight comes into the game with the tempo, knight to d5. It's a huge difference if the knight comes with the tempo or if it is not coming with the tempo. Now you have to make reaction, you have to play again a queen to d8. And look at this, now with c4 this position is broken. You can maybe pass through with the move b4, but white is also here a beautiful counter attack, and actually you could fall into many dirty tactical traps here from black's perspective. So this is something that I don't recommend you, even if you try for instance something like bishop to d7. Look at this, knight to b5 is going to happen whatever you do. You take maybe here, then we have in this one queen to a8, we have queen to a8, now knight to c7, and here white is much better. So after move knight to b5 you don't have to take, of course, you can also play maybe rook to c8, but now with queen to a6, I think the game is over. Look at this again. We have here some weaknesses on c7, so it's, I think, a position that black can resign in a couple of more moves. So be careful. So you see here in the continuation, you should take with the pawn, not with the queen, because your opponent will get an extra tempo. So that's why also Stockfish took with g takes f6. Now there is still the threat of b4, creating the fork against both of this knight. So that's why knight to d5 is also sort of a must move here for white. So we're continuing here with the move f5. That's also Stockfish continuation. This is now the best line that black should play. In the continuation, we have c3, we have bishop to g7, bishop to e6, and now bishop to d3, and now we have bishop to e6. The idea is clear. If you take, of course, then you lose the knight. So that's the main issue now from white's perspective. So in the continuation, we have queen to h5, creating now a double attack here against this pawn, but also in many times this could be also weakness on f7. So that's why here Stockfish first castles, but now the fun really starts. We have reached now a position that has been played many times in the lasker-pelikan Sicilian, and many times white is playing this wild line with the move e takes f5. Now black can take out the knight on d5, but now comes the actual goal here with the move f6. White is also threatening the checkmate on h7 and is also attacking the bishop on g7. So there is only one good way to escape from this. That's of course what Stockfish played immediately. We have now e4, and here after move f takes g7, we have rook to e8, and we're threatening now some attacking opportunities here against the king on e1. So now white has to make a reaction. Here we have bishop to e2. If you try, for instance, queen to d5, if you want to take out the bishop, this is not good for white, because of course you get this one, e takes d3, comes with the discovered check. You have to maybe escape to f1, but now look at this, knight to e5 is going to happen. This is really an unpleasant pawn. Even if you try to attack it, look at this, knight to g5, knight to e3 is going to happen. You can maybe take out the pawn, but look at this, knight to e3. You have to play something like king to f2. This knight, this queen will come into the game. So basically, white king is in sort of a mating net. We can afterwards, of course, take out this pawn, but this pawn doesn't matter. I think the activity of black's pieces is here something that bothers, of course, white in the continuation of the game. So this is not working. So that's why queen to d5 should not be played here by white. That's why here Ethereal played bishop to e2, and it gives now Stockfish 15 the opportunity to include now the knight on the square e5. So this is really main theory of this lasker-pelikan Sicilian. This position has been played many times. There are many draws in the database that I see. There's also winning game by white, there's also winning game by black, so it's pretty equal position. But I have to admit it here, I would love to play now more this position from black's perspective, because especially of one tactical goal, and the tactical goal is actually this move, knight to f3 creates many times some opportunities. Even some ideas I think are possible, rook to e6, then maybe rook to g6, and then followed with knight to f3. So when we watch now the position, and okay, the evaluation is about equal here, but when I think more about possibilities, tactical possibilities and ideas in chess, I would say that black has a better position because of this opportunity. So that, as I said, from this point on, I think that white is more defending than black. So I would, as I said, would love to reach now this position from black's perspective. So in the continuation, we have kingside castling by Ethereal. We have queen to f6. So see how Stockfish builds now a beautiful attacking formation. Look at this. This knight is a little bit out of game. We have to say it. It has to be maneuvered once, twice, maybe 3 times in order to get into the defense. So we have now queen to h3. We have knight to g6. Good move. Knight to f4 and also knight to h4 are opportunities now for black. We have a queen to e3, knight to h4, and now comes maybe the first inaccuracy / mistake by Ethereal. Knight to c2 is of course a good choice. We want to include now the knight into the game, but I think you have to get out of this mess now, because knight to f3 is, as I said, the serious threat. Now of course knight to f3 is not working because white will simply take, but after move knight to c2, actually knight to f3 is working because it comes with a check. Now you have to make a reaction, and look at this. If you take g takes f3, then you get this one, e takes f3, the queen has to move, and now look at this, queen to g6, and and you're getting checkmated. So this is not working. So that's why I like, as I said, more this idea to get away from this potential check on f3. But okay, Ethereum played knight to c2. We have knight to f3 anyway by Stockfish 15. We have king to h1 and now queen to h4. You see how Stockfish is building suddenly an attacking formation, build sort of a mating net in front of white's king. So as I said, in my opinion, black has at least more ideas how to make progress in this particular position. So okay, the only way to defend this position is h3. We have f5 and now queen to b6. Again, I'm pointing out g takes f3 doesn't make sense because you're lined up here, queen to h3. Now we play this one. You have to again step back by the queen. You have to maybe play queen to g5 in order to prevent this checkmate on g2, but now we simply take, and still we're threatening checkmate on h1, and we have also created this attack against the rook, so still it's game over for sure for white. So you see how this maneuver knight to f3 is actually a beautiful tactical goal. It can be many times messed up here for white. So after move f5, Ethereum realized that it has to defend from the back. It's trying now to include the queen into the game. It's trying now also to attack the bishop on d5. So we have now f4. Stockfish continues now under pressure. We have rook from a to d1. If you play now rook to queen to d6 immediately, then you get this one, bishop to e6 with the threat of bishop to h3. This is something also that we have to consider. For instance, you try knight to d4, knight to d4, c takes d4, and now f3 is a beautiful opportunity. Look at this, g takes f3, e takes f3, bishop to f3, but now with queen to h3 we can simply take out the bishop, and again it's game over for white. So this tactical goal also is many times here a possibility for black. So after move f4, that's why rook from a to d1 was played, attacking now the bishop on d5. We have bishop to e6 anyway, and now rook to d6. So you see how Ethereum included now more defenders into the game. This was a good choice because many of us, I think, would play now the move bishop to e6, but that's not the importance about the move rook to d6. Actually, this bishop to h3 is not working because you get this one, rook to h6, and now the queen is attacked. There is only now one good move for black, and this is now a perpetual check. This is now a drawish line. After h takes bishop to g2, we have king to g2, now queen to g4 again, and you check, and now with rook to e5 there is this line, rook to h5, then we trade off the rooks, and then still of course black can always create a perpetual check, and this game should end in a draw. So that's why after move rook to d6, Stockfish didn't take out the pawn on h3, realized that this is leading into a draw. Stockfish wants more out of this position, so that's why we have here knight to g5, protecting now the bishop on e6, but now there is really this threat of bishop to h3, or maybe with the move f3. So that's why here in the continuation we have rook to e6. So Ethereum gave up now the rook for the exchange, and we have now knight to e6. And okay, let's stop and evaluate the position. This is really wild what happened. You see we're now in move 27, and Stockfish is up the exchange, has a better position, and I really couldn't find where things went wrong for Ethereum. So as I said, this is really a novelty. This is really wild how Stockfish produced new ideas in the Pelikan Lasker Sicilian. Really immortal tactical sequence so far. So after move knight to e6, it's obvious that the knight will also come into the defense. So okay, black's king is a little bit naked, sort of. It can be attacked maybe by the minor pieces, but now the knight is a good defensive piece. So in the continuation, we have bishop to g4, we have knight takes g7, we have knight to d4. So now suddenly also white is rolling, white is including now more attackers into the game. So we have f3 by Stockfish, g3, and now queen to d8. So Stockfish would love now, I think, to trade off the queens to simplify the game, especially because of this naked king situation. There is only one defender from the king, the knight. Sometimes it's not enough, so that's why Stockfish wants to simplify the game by trading off the queen. So we have queen to h6, queen to d5, h4, b4, trying of course to deflect the pawn from the defense of the knight on d4. So we have king to g1, king to h8, bringing the king more into security. We have rook to e1, and now rook from a to b8, continuing the pressure here on the b file. So we have now a3, b takes c3, b takes c3, and now queen to c5, attacking both of the pawns, the weakness on c3, but also the pawn on a3. Queen to e3, you see, Ethereum is protecting now the pawn on c3, and here Stockfish continues with the normal plan, rook to a8. He's trying now to keep the position more compact, because if you try now queen to a3, this is not losing for black, or still black should be slightly better here, but there is this line, bishop to d5. Now you have to step back, and now look at this, bishop to c6, and maybe in the near future this pawn can be taken. If this pawn is falling, then probably also this pawn is falling, and now black is losing its only advantage here. Of course black is up the exchange, but I think these two pawns are also very important, because they are creating the space advantage for black. So if black maybe loses the pawn on e4 and f3, then the position could be messed up here. So as I said, even in this scenario black is slightly better, but Stockfish didn't want to reach this line. Stockfish played a more solid rook to a8. Here we have a4, because if you play now bishop to d7 with the same idea, maybe to play bishop to c6 and attacking the pawn, then rook to e7, you can maybe attack. But now look at this, rook to c8, and now if you try bishop to e4, we can also take out this one. And okay, maybe in the near future this pawn is falling, but I think also then this pawn is falling, and then still black could have this passer on the a file. So at least in this scenario black is also gaining some pawns. Okay, here after rook to a8, here we have a4. So here Ethereal didn't play this idea, bishop to d7, although my Stockfish engine at home suggested this move as the best line for white to proceed with this idea, bishop to c6, and then at least grabbing this pawn. Okay, maybe this was also sort of an inaccuracy by the Ethereal engine. So okay, a4 was played. We have a rook to a7, queen to d2, we have rook to e7, protecting now the pawn on e4. We have rook to e3, rook to b7, and now rook to e1, and now rook to e7. So Stockfish also had some trouble how to make progress here. One of the main goals that could be good for black is maybe to push here the pawn on e3, and then maybe follow up with this move, with the move f2. This could be sort of a goal, maybe as an idea, or maybe somehow, if possible, include the knight into the game, maybe on f5 and e3. But still, look at this, the black is having still this rook versus knight situation, but still white is defending this position. White can create here really good blockade. So in the continuation we have rook to e3. So Ethereal engine is probably satisfied with the draw here. A rook to b7, rook to e1, we have queen to c4, king to h2, and now queen to f7. You see Stockfish has really some issues how to make progress here in this particular position. Bishop to h3, rook to b6, bishop to g4, rook to g6. Now there is maybe something going on around the square. So as I said, this is the only way to make some kind of an opportunity here. So we have bishop to h3, rook to b6, again a couple of perpetuals. So still Stockfish didn't find good opportunities here. Bishop to h3, queen to g6, we have king to g1, queen to b6, and now bishop to g4 again. We have queen to g6, and again a couple of perpetuals. If they would have played 3 times the same position, then of course the game is a draw. So that's why here the third time Stockfish played let's go here after bishop to g4, queen to f6 was played. Now we have bishop to h3, and now finally again improving this rook, and again getting it here on the e file. So we have here now rook to e3, we have queen to b6, again a5. If you take now queen to a5, then of course you get this fork, knight to c6, and then white should be better. So that's why a5 an interesting move also by Ethereal. Stockfish is not falling for this, of course. Played now queen to c5, queen to e1, and now knight to h5. Again searching for opportunities, maybe even some ideas, I don't know, rook to g7, then knight to f4, maybe knight to e2, maybe attacking the bishop. At least something. You have to improve somehow this pieces. So still a tough battle here by these two top engines. So here in the continuation, after knight to h5, knight to f5, rook to e5, knight to h6, threatening also the fork. So that's why rook to f8. We have knight to g4. Here if you try rook to e4, this wouldn't be good. Okay, rook to e4, queen to e4, but as we said, something could happen here. So at least Stockfish is getting one pawn. No checks by the queen are possible. So that's why this wouldn't be again a good continuation for white. So you cannot take out the pawn on e4 so far, maybe in the later stage of the game, but so far it's not working. So as we said, that's why knight to g4 played by ethereal. We have rook to e7, c4, queen to d4, we have king to h2, knight to f6, trying to simplify the game again by trading off more pieces. And now after rook to f6, at least Stockfish is getting closer and closer to the win. I think when the knights are off the board, then I think it's much easier to play, because when the knight is on the board, and knight is always a tricky piece, then you could get some forks, you can get some wild ideas. Now the position is more simplified with black. Still, black is up the exchange and wants now even maybe to trade off the queens. If that happens, then I think black is winning for sure. So we have queen to b4, rook to e8, queen to b1, rook to d6, bishop to f1. Now trying of course to trade off the queens. We have a check, queen to d4, again queen to b1, rook to e6, and now queen to b4. So still the ethereal engine is trying to stay on dark squares where it can create at least some kind of a check, maybe even some perpetuals, and then force the draw again. So king to g7, we have king to g1, rook to g6, king to h2, rook to d6, king to g1, rook to e6. So it's still Stockfish is making only slowly progress. It's not so easy to play this game for sure. So we have rook to e7, queen to b6, and now rook to d8. So if you take now queen to b6, that's not good, of course, because after a takes b6, look at this, you can maybe play rook to b8, but now two passers are connected, so this is something that I think is messed up here for black. White is suddenly winning the game. So really beautiful move also by the ethereal engine. Queen to b6, really an interesting idea. So rook to d8, we have queen to b4, the queen to d6, again a check, again queen to d4, covering the dark squares, queen to b4, queen to e5, queen to e1, rook to d4, bishop to f1, and now lining up this rook on the d file, threatening also of course a very important move, rook to d1. So that's why queen to c3, and now comes a very subtle move. This is a beautiful move, although in the beginning it seems so that this is nothing special, but now a brilliant idea was this move h6. Look how important this move will be in negotiation of the game, because this h6 is actually covering a potential check by the queen on g5. And look how, as I said, this move will be important, because after move c5 we have a rook to d5, rook to e1, rook to d2, and after queen to e3 now comes sort of a winning move, queen to d4, because queen to d4 would not be possible early, because you will get the check here on g5, and then maybe white can play sort of a perpetual with the queen, but now it's not possible. After rook to c1 we have queen to e3, f takes e3, and now rook to d7, c6, rook to c7, and now rook to c5. For instance, if you try to take out the pawn on a6, I've also analyzed this line. It's not getting better here for white, because now the king is marching simply towards here the king side. We're trying king to f5. White has to protect now this potential route for the king. White has to really make a blockade here, and now the king is marching simply towards the queen side. You can maybe create rook to a1, but now we'll simply take out this one. You can push the pawn further here, maybe rook to c2. You can even push the pawn further, or if you try, maybe then we'll simply play rook to c1, trading off the rooks, and still we can catch up with this pawn, and the game is over for white. So after rook to c7, as we said, rook to c5. So here ethereal didn't take out the pawn on a6, king to f6, we have a g4, now rook to a2 again, rook to h5, we have king to g6 attacking the rook, rook to c5, king to g7, bishop to h3, and now rook to e2, trying of course to take out this pawn, and it's game over. So we have bishop to f1, rook takes a3, we have king to f2, rook to a3. Now Stockfish includes this rook into the game, is now trying of course to push this pawns further. So we have bishop to a6, finally f2, rook to c1, e3. These pawns are marching here in the continuation, king to f3, and now rook to a5. If you take, of course, then we'll simply take out the bishop, so it's not working. After move bishop to e2 was played, we have rook to a2, bishop to b5, rook to b2, attacking the bishop, bishop to a6, rook to b6, attacking now again the bishop. If you try here, of course, this one, bishop to b7, then actually rook takes b7 is a possibility, because we take also the rook. White can promote the queen, but also black will promote the queen here on f1. f1 and the game is over. So that's why in this scenario, after move rook to b6, bishop to f1 was played, but now Stockfish simply grabbed another pawn, rook to a1. We have a check here, Ethereal took. Now this other rook coming to the game, so we have king to d2, rook to e7, and after rook to a4. In this position, the Ethereal engine resigned. There are many things that you can do. Rook to e1, for instance, is immediately winning. So as I said, in this position, white resigns. So interesting ideas of the Pelikan Lasker Sicilian. Let's go to the critical position. I think, okay, it was still a tough battle. Maybe this wasn't the most attractive game in the middle game stage because it was a tough battle by the two top engines. But as I said, here in this particular line, the most important thing is notice to those is f5, then bishop to g7, bishop to e6. Now takes, and now we played this one, e4. Okay, white will take, but now with rook to e1 and now knight to e5. This is sort of a cornerstone position that I think you have to know if you want to play the Pelikan Lasker Sicilian, and I think you could have good winning chances in this particular line. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. As I said, in the near future you can expect that we'll start the Pelikan Lasker Sicilian for sure. From Black's perspective, it's a decent opening. It's, I think, really a good opening against e4, and Magnus Carlsen is playing. You see Stockfish has success with, so maybe you can also prepare yourself and have really fun. So okay, if you want to see more games in this opening, please check out our Pelikan Lasker Sveshnikov / Magnus Carlsen Sicilian here. Here's our playlist of some games that we have analyzed so far. And if you want to see more brutal attacks like this, check out my comment chat games played by computer series with some more games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.